All right, everyone, I'm going to give you an overview of the Retention Center, which is actually an intervention tool that you can use for your students in your courses at National University here. So what you're going to do is you basically go into your Blackboard. Once you go into your Blackboard, you're going to go ahead and make sure that you go into your correct course, of course. What we're going to do is, for the purposes of this training, we'll go into um, a false class here um, that has various students in here, just so you can basically see, how the retention center actually works. Um, all right, so basically the retention center is located on the left-hand column. So here's your left-hand column. So if you scroll all the way down, we'll go right here to where it says evaluation here. So on your screen, it might look like that. So if you click evaluation, it opens up and it gives you an opportunity to run course reports to basically evaluate your class, evaluate your teaching style, evaluate how your students are learning, where they spend their amount of time. And I'll go over that a little bit if I have some time. Um, so here's the retention center. You're going to go ahead and click the retention center. And again, these are dummy names here, just so for the purposes of this training. So obviously, here's my name as well that I made up here. So what you're going to do, this is called the risk table, and this is called the risk row. So by clicking on the risk row, it breaks up into 4 different categories. So in total, it showed that there were 21 possible students that had alerts or that are at risk, right? Well, by clicking on the row, I'm actually able to see even further where these risks actually lie. So for example, there are 11 students that have missed deadlines, supposedly, 1 student that has a low grade, 19 students that did not contribute, and then 7 students that did actually not log in. So you can use this in many practical ways. For example, let's say it's your first week of class and it's Wednesday. You go in here on Wednesday. That's what I always do. And if I notice that there's students that have not logged in, which usually there are, what I do is I can either individually click on the individual student, like right here. If I click that and then I click notify, I can actually email the student right away. And it's a customized email, so you don't even have to draft the email. You just need to click send. And then the student gets an email, you get an email, and it also gets saved in the Retention Center dashboard. And that's the awesome part. So if you look down here, there is a Retention Center dashboard. So when you actually grade the student and when you go into the student's profile, at the bottom when you grade them, it will actually show you a list of all of the communication, shows you a list of all of the announcements that you've done for the student. In this one here, it just shows some that I just kind of made up here, just so for the purposes of this training here. So if you click here, 7 students did not log in, for example. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, and then I click. So you can click on the individual student, or you can click on this row up here if you want to email more than one student at a time. So I want to email these 7 students because supposedly they have not logged in or basically accessed. That's the access the course. So you can email those students, you can email the observers, or you can email the students and the observers. The observers are basically your cluster leads that have access to the course, your program leads, and your department chair that also has access. So it's kind of nice because the students don't see that you emailed them. They're basically blind copied, but at least it provides more eyes. So that's usually what I do. I email the students and the observers, so then that way there's other folks as well that see that, I'm providing an intervention here and that the student possibly needs some assistance. So if you click, let's just say for the purposes of this one, just students. So if I click here, students, it takes you to this email. And I'm going to be emailing these 7 students, and you can add additional people that are blind copied as well. So even from here, you can add additional people. And it should have pre-populated the email here, and for some reason it's not. Oh, there it is. Okay. So basically, you can start something off by saying, dear students, or good afternoon, and then see it pre-populated already that text right there. Your access patterns have triggered an alert from this course. Please log in. Regular attendance is required. And or you can change it, any way you want. As soon as you click submit, the students receive an email and you receive an email. Also, you can attach files to this email as well, like supports and things like that. That's also very helpful. So again, one practical way that you can use this tool is by immediately by the third day of the month of the class starting, of the course starting, you can email the students that have not accessed. That's really important. Also, if they've missed any deadlines, you can also email those students as well by clicking this. And again, here's the 11 students that missed deadlines. Now, you do have to keep in mind that if you don't have your due dates in the individual assignments correct, then it may show several orange dots. But if you do have your due dates correct, okay, that means you updated the due dates in each of the assignments, and the students missed it, then it would show up as orange, and you can email those students and let them know or maybe they haven't accessed the course at least 2 times a week. If they haven't accessed it at least 2 times a week, then that's your activity alert right here. So, supposedly these students have not accessed the course 2 times, out of the week. So, you can notify those students as well. You can also create additional rules as well. So maybe you don't like some of these rules. Maybe you want to add a rule that if students score below 80% on a particular assignment or do not respond to two peers, that they also show up in the risk table. So that you would do that right here by going to Customize. You're going to click Create Rule, okay, a course activity rule or a grade rule. You can do any one of those. Maybe you want to delete some of the default rules already. And maybe you want to say, well, if the student hasn't accessed the course at least 1 time out of the week, or at least 4 times out of the week, you can easily do that as well. Or for individual assignments, maybe it's a specific grade. Now, keep in mind that when you do that, you want to make sure that you're including it in the risk table. So you want to click risk table right here, and then you would want to monitor a specific item, right? And then it tells you all the individual assignments that you can monitor. You can even monitor a new nav component, discussion, anything like that. So if you notice that maybe some of your students are struggling and not earning their points with new nav, then you would get an alert here in the risk table as well. Again, the really cool part about this retention center is that it's all in one spot, in the sense that students, actually, that you get to see all of the data for your students. Right here, you click retention center, just to kind of review it here with you. You can also monitor students too. So by clicking this, let's say I wanted to monitor an individual student. So I would just click this, and then I would click monitor. And now I'm monitoring this individual student. That means I'll be getting updates on how the student is doing. If they didn't turn in specific assignments, I'll be updated on that as well. So think of it as a mini caseload. I can unclick the star, and then now I'm not monitoring the student. So maybe the student got better. But here is your overall course activity. You get to see all the interventions that you've possibly done. You can actually go into the discussion board here and interact with students. It shows you all of the announcements that you've done in a specific course, and it would actually show you a list of all of your announcements. Now, of course, there's just one main announcement here because, like I said, this is a false course, but you would normally see a whole bunch of announcements that you've done in the course. I do want to point out you can also post an announcement from here as well. So that's another tool that you can also do. And anytime that you notify a student or any interventions that you provide, it gets actually placed in the student's profile. So when you go to the Grade Center and you actually go to view the student's grade in detail, you will actually see the student's grade for that specific item. But if you scroll all the way down, it looks very similar to this. And so it would say the student's name, and then it would show all of the interventions and all of the learner support that you provided that student. So it's really nice because you can use that. You can also go here to where it says Performance Dashboard, and it tells you, when they actually access the course and those kinds of things. I wanted to show you this one here, Course Reports. This is one that I use very often. If you scroll all the way down, you can go to Student Overview for single course. And if I run that, let's see if the internet should pop up pretty fast. And you can run an individual student. So if you, let's say, click, let's go back, just for the purposes of this. We'll hit submit. Sometimes it takes a little while, but basically you'll see a list of categories of how your students are performing in individual areas and how many hours they've actually put into the course. So here you can see that the student normally does more activity, 9 hours of activity on Monday, and that's where they're really a lot busier there. Also by the individual assignments and activities, it tells you how many times they've accessed it, when they accessed it, and how much time they actually spent on the individual assignments as well. You can also export this to Excel as well. So again, here's just a recap of and a summary of how you can actually access the Retention Center. Again, you go into your Blackboard course. The next thing that you do is you're going to click Retention Center, and then you're right here at the risk table. Very, very simple. And then you can just click this bar up here once, and then it breaks it up into individual areas, so that way you can email multiple students that are affected or that are at risk according to these concerns.